first thing you're going to want to do when you come, and you see a lot of people that are here clearing off the trailhead side, is you're going to want to check in here. I've been here before, so I'm fairly familiar with where I am and how to enter. Again, I grew up in Murfreesboro. Yeah, you can enter right over there too and park on the trailhead side if you prefer. And you can get a motorhome in there too if it's not too busy. And that is also a entrance to the Greenway Trail, which is a bike or walking trail, no motorized vehicles. And they have expanded this trail, and you can get a shot kind of downtown with taller buildings and things there. But as a hobby, Boat Nut Films originated over, you know, my love for my 200 horsepower, 18.5-foot bass boat, and I had some fun with it. But I'm not going to change the name of my YouTube station, but we're going to start doing a lot of different things. I'm going to get better at what I do as a hobby here, and I'm going to document the history of Tennessee and Rutherford County as best I can, and hopefully make it a little bit entertaining for you, and hopefully you'll enjoy this. So here we go. We'll shoot some things here that we can shoot. This bridge was moved from somewhere. This is a good example of how bridges were made, and a lot of these in Murfreesboro stayed, and the big ones especially, they stayed in Uncle use. Dave Macon, very interesting fellow, and we'll go over a lot of the history of that with you. Dave Harrison Macon was born in the tiny hamlet of Smart Station in Warren County, and spent his teenage years in Nashville, where his parents operated a Broadway hotel. Among the clientele were vaudeville and other traveling performers, both black and white, whose music and songs influenced the young Macon. After getting married, Macon moved to a farm east of Murfreesboro, hauled freight with mule teams while continuing to learn old folk songs from members of his community. He sang and drove and picked his banjo under a handy shade tree when he stopped for a rest. After a trucking company forced him out of business, Macon embarked on a career in music soon after his 50th birthday. You know, that's a late start in life to start a music career. That's one of the interesting things about Uncle Dave Macon. After a couple years, a talent show signed Uncle Dave to entertain the vaudeville theater around the country. Before long, he was sent to New York to record his fame and spread rapidly. In 1925, Macon became one of the first performers of the Grand Ole Opry, and for a while was its only superstar. By the 1930s, he was a regular on the show and played there a few months before his death. No one aided the transformation of folk music in the 19th century into modern country more than Uncle Dave Macon. That is very interesting. You look at the influences of music, rock and roll, you know, it all started from folk music. So, and I have family lineage here, and I have family passed down information who knew David Macon, and apparently he was kind of sweet on one of my great aunts in his younger days. But we may do the tour of where he grew up at some point. Who knows? But it's my understanding he was a very multi-talented and foresaw a lot of things. Get a vision of an actual grist mill wheel here. This one functions with electricity, I know, but it was put here. All right, here we are Cannonsburgh, Murfreesboro. Very interesting place. Very historic value here. Spoke with a lady in there about permission to film out here, and generally you would need a waiver, but I just told her I'm going to represent it in a positive light, and she didn't have a problem at all with me shooting video. You know, so here we go. And as I said, this is a very interesting place, and they accept donations. They don't charge anything to come in here, but on Boat Nut Films we've been doing a lot of old grist mills, and here they have one. They've moved from another site, and I'll look at this and see if I can tell exactly where it came from. Reassembled it here, and then even though their wheel is turned by electric power, it Elis Gray Wheel and Grain Company, 1830. But I'm hoping to get you some really detailed information about this stuff. And again, it's kind of dark in some of these places, but do the best we can with it. You can see okay in here with this. And these are standard tools they would have used in the industry back in the day. You know, weigh your grain in and out, and there's a hand mill. I'd kind of like to have one of those now. Corn sheller. It looks like it is, though it's a flattened out burlap bag they would have used back then and there. And it's a table saw. And again, you have the big belts and stuff that were all powered off of the mill wheel. Extra parts here. You see back in there, there's one of the mills, and some broken down half wheels. But this would have been your main milling machine here. The wheel would have powered this mechanism, and again they had a lifting mechanism here. They turned up and probably swung over it once to fill the hopper with raw grains and corns. Kind of see down there, the wheel's attached to the left side here. It would have had a shaft come running in at some point, and other shafts that would have been geared down by different pulleys to run different equipment in the mill. This is a very small mill, and I hope to give you a working tour of Falls Mill. And you've just got some antiques and boxes. This would have been a hand mill here. They have one of those at home. And they've got more stuff upstairs, but they're not going to let us go up there. But if you watch some of the things that are on Boat Nut Films, you'll see that the mills are a lot of what I'm documenting now. And these original beams and stuff, you know, would have been from the original site. A lot of the braces and stuff they've used in here are quite different. A lot of people out here today. And you can kind of see here the mill shaft going in there. And you can see it had quite a gear reduction drive. So you had plenty of power to power that taller gear, which ran a smaller gear, which lowered the gear ratio. So it would have given you enough power just from the water turning this thing to run a lot of different types of equipment. And this was a very important part of history. We take for granted nowadays on how food is produced and made, but you know, this was a very important thing, right? Here we have a example of one of the old classrooms, Gordon Schoolhouse, 1840. You know, that doesn't seem too long ago. And of course, you've got your own classroom bell. Those bells are hard to find now. My stepdad always wanted one, finally got one from my grandmother. She had it as an antique, and we were farmers, and he'd call the horses up with him when it was time for feeding. And I'm going to tell you, some of this furniture is probably not time period correct, but and there's an old wooden chalkboard. All right, here we have a university house. From about 1850. And one thing you'll notice about this house, it was a unique design. It's got a breezeway. So most of your cooking and stuff that created heat would have been done on one side, and then your living and sleeping quarters would have been done on the opposite side. And then you had a place in the middle where, you know, you could sit outside and stay cool. Nice fireplace on this end. This is the Lehman house. So this will give you an example of how some of the nicer cabins were built with modern kitchen facilities for the time. Let's see if we can go in. Oh, they've got it locked. And I don't think you can see through there, but a little bit. But it's also got a breezeway. And this gives you an idea of how these things were put together, you know, kind of tongue and groove. This concrete, you know, that wouldn't have been common. That's just something to keep maintenance down on them at this point, but this one's actually got an air conditioner in it. 2-story. Big 2-story. So this would have been an upper class home. And I still to this day love these breezeways. You know, I can come in here and it's, I don't know, 94 degrees out today. Oh, it's so much cooler just in this breezeway. I think if I were to build and design a home, That would be something I would consider. They've got a light on here, which is nice. And see here, you can see how they kept their, should be cooking and dining areas separate. To better manage the heat of the home. Looks as though they use this one. I mean, I could live here. And of course out back, you've got your smokehouse. If you're from the South, you're gonna know what that is. And then your outhouse. Outhouse, the term was used for a lot of different reasons, but we know the main one. This is pretty interesting. This ash hopper was essential. It says they used to use wood ashes to make lye soap. So, however that worked. And here we have Rockville Home Mutual Telephone Company, established in 1916. These are pretty interesting. We take it for granted, you know, how convenient the telephone is nowadays, but back then, you had a little home, and if you needed to make a call in the middle of the night, well, someone had this job 24 hours a day. They'd get up out of bed and connect your calls for you. I think generally people didn't take advantage of that unless it was an emergency, but so whoever had this job stayed close to the telephone operating systems. World's largest bucket. And I've read this before, and I'll find some information online about this. This bucket was actually burned by some idiot teenagers who were pulling a prank. But it was built as a promotional thing for the local bucket manufacturer here. And I will find some more information on that. I've seen that. This building here is very interesting to me. This is a blacksmith shop, which is still in use. They have a blacksmith society who still operates in here. The lights on in here, they were the last time I was here. So you can get an idea of the tools and things that they still use in here. They will use this during Macon days and different events. It's kind of dark in there, you can't really see, but tools on all the back walls there. It's like a kiln back there. And another one here. And I'll kind of give you an overview of where we've been. You know, it's a neat little village. That's a center stone mark there. And Tennessee and American flags flying. Not too much of Breezeway. F.L. Westbrooks. It's a nice breeze going through here. Cross ventilation, boy, that would have been the thing. And I guess this would have been a general store